You're listening to a podcast from the Finnish Football Show. Yes, it's the Finnish Football Show. I'm Mark Wiltshire. Thanks for joining for another episode, and joined today by Ali Manson. Hi, Ali.
Moika, Mark, how you doing?
Yeah, not bad. We've got another busy show. We were just talking before recording about football doesn't stop, and competitive football seems to be more and more of it, so we're back. I think it was only about a week ago the last show came out when I was with Jamie looking at the Stormont Cup final, but today, loads of things to cover. We'll start with a run through the most recent Veikkausliiga results from the last weekend and where that leaves the table going into the final round of the Mestaruussarja and the Haastajasarja. Then we'll move on to the Euro2024 qualifiers for Finland with an away match in Slovenia and a home match against Kazakhstan. And all things being equal, we will have guests to come on and talk about that. Let's see how this goes. Nothing ever runs completely smoothly with the Finnish Football Show, so let's see how we get on. But Ali, if you're ready to go.
Absolutely.
Good. Let's crack on and look at the Mestaruussarja results. And the most recent round of games saw FC Inter 1, SJK Seinäjoki 2, KUP Skopje 3, FC Honka 1, and VPS Vaasa 3, HJK Helsinki 2. Ali, you're a HJK fan, so let's have your perspective on that. The chat in the WhatsApp group was quite excitable. How was that game?
I mean, from the neutral point of view, it was a cracker. VPS going 2-0 up inside 15 minutes. You start to kind of fear the worst with it. Well, any fan kind of starts to fear the worst when you go 2-0 down. But credit to HJK, they brought it back through, a terrific strike from Bande. I don't know if you yourself, Mark, or viewers have seen it, but it's definitely a goal I would recommend looking up. From one angle, it looks like a good old-fashioned toe poke, but I reckon it was a bit more finessed than that. I'm sure he'll say so. And then Radulovic got the equaliser on the 78th minute. That man just cannot stop scoring. It sort of feels like, only yesterday when we were talking about HJK needing a striker, but this season he has really put that to bed. But he's almost been too good, so I'm a little worried that he might get poached from a team from a different league. But
I might say it's about time. He's been scoring for HJK for 2 or 3 seasons now, hasn't he? So
he has. It's just this season everything's come together in both the league and in Europe. And then VPS just got the winner in the 94th minute, but practically the last kick of the game. And
do you know what? They did that to Seinäjoki as well back in August. We pulled ourselves back from 2-0 down, and then with a header from a corner right at the end, and it just knocked all the wind out of us.
And I think knowing HJK knew at that point that a point would have been enough to guarantee the title, and so you could really tell that the players, the staff were deflated at the end, which is totally natural. You've just lost in the last minute. You've lost the title. Well, lost out on the title at least to win it on that day. But watching the interviews afterwards with the players and the fan reactions, the bubble had been burst a little bit, that's for sure, which again is understandable. But I do think looking forward, if you'd offered them either at the beginning of the season or a few weeks ago, would you go into the last game against KUPS, needing a point or even a 2-0 loss will do? I reckon. It's dangerous to have that.
Yeah, it certainly is.
To have that in the back of your mind. But of course, if you'd offer that to them, they would have taken it, certainly.
Yeah, and also that result sort of screwed things up for Seinäjoki as well, because we had a decent result away at Inter on the back of some poor results, some defeats and draws, and hadn't really got going. But 2-0 up inside 50 minutes, and then own goal for the consolation, and it was looking good. If Ashikor had won that game and Vasa didn't win, then the final game next week, which is Ashikor Vasa, the winner would come third, and there's bronze medal, but it's also makes it a bit easier in this Euro qualifying tournament that comes at the end. We'll talk about that in a moment. So yeah, that kind of I was feeling quite positive, and then my stepson Topias came out of his room and he said, Vasa scored a winner with 10 seconds to go, and I was like, it's like a punch in the stomach. So what that does to the table, we've sort of talked around it a little bit. Have you got the table in front of you, Ali?
I do, yes.
Yeah. Do you want to just talk through the positions and the points at the moment?
Yeah. So at the moment, you've got Huuhkajat top with 53 and not a far superior goal difference, but a better goal difference to Kups in second, who are on 50. VPS.
There's 5 goals difference between them, basically, isn't there?
There is, yeah. It's a 25 goal difference for Huuhkajat, 20 for Kups. VPS on 46. Yeah, as you said, that result is really sort of taken away from the. Not a third place playoff, because I think it meant a little bit more than that. But
certainly local bragging rights, it meant a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so then you've got Ashikor down on 42. So I've cemented fourth spot. I don't know how you feel about that, Mark. And then Honka on 38, and then Intertoku on 35.
Yeah, well, I think the thing about fourth spot is relevant if we talk then about what comes next after these games, because the only thing that really will change significantly on after next weekend is who wins. So if Kups win by 3 goals, they go top on goal difference above Huuhkajat. If Huuhkajat lose by 2 goals or draw or win, then they're champions. So you're going to be on the edge of your sofa on Sunday.
Yeah.
Or not Sunday coming, but the weekend after, isn't it? Because we've got the international football. The point about coming fourth means that there's this Eurolopputurnaus, this kind of qualifying for the Europa Conference League. So we've been alluding to this through the season, but now it's finally become kind of clear what's going to happen. Ashikor will play at home to Oulu. So finishing fourth means that we play the team that finishes 7th in this playoff. And then Honka in 5th play Inter in 6th. So in theory, they have a easier game. That said, if Oulu are in good form, they could be top of that lower half and really pushing. I think they're not in the best of form. So I think it's okay. It's okay. So Ashikor, Oulu, Honka, Inter, one-off games. The 2 winners then go into another one-off game, and the winner of that plays a final against VPS. And VPS finishing 3rd means that they have the second game at home. So in theory, if Ashikor, from my perspective, can win these 2 games, then they go into a 2-legged final against VPS Vasa. So although they get the bronze medal, we might still be able to take away that European place. So there's still potentially keeps the season going all the way through till the first weekend of November. Fingers crossed.
It would be a tasty way to end the season if it is Ashikor VPS for that in that playoff.
Yeah, it certainly would, and also because it's local, it's easy to get to. Hopefully, there'll be big crowds traveling to each game, and that should be fun. It's always fun going to the away ground and causing a bit of noise. So, but let's not count our chickens. The Oulu fans and the Inter and Honka fans will be yelling at us to not disregard them. So let's just say one step at a time. But in the blog post that accompanies this, there's a really neat graphic that I borrowed from Ashikor's Facebook page. So thanks, and there's a link there where you can see the original. Okay, in the bottom half of the table, the Haastajasarja Sarja. The most recent games were Ilves 3, Oulu 2. So Ilves continuing their good form, and Oulu kind of this slightly wobbly end to the season, bit up and down. Haka 2, Kotepe 0, and Mariehamn 0, Lahti 0. So Ali, as we said, that leaves Oulu in 7th place and into that Eurolopputurnaus. But what about the other positions?
Yeah, so then you've got Haka on 31 points in second, closely followed by Ilves, who are on 30, closely followed by Lahti. I mean, that game, when I saw that it was 0-0 Lahti and Mariehamn, I thought, oh, that's I could have put so much money on that game finishing 0. But to be fair to Lahti, they had 21 shots. So I mean, they tried, but maybe that's a story of both of the team season, just not really been able to put the ball in the back of the net when it matters. So yeah, Lahti there in 4th on 29, Kotepe on 20 points, and then just behind them is Mariehamn on 19.
Yeah, and the way the table is structured is that the teams now, it's kind of designed to be this way, but of course results during this final round of games can change things. But basically the final games will be Oulu in 1st against Haka in 2nd, Ilves in 3rd against Lahti in 4th, and Kotepe 5th against Mariehamn in 6th. So that bottom game matters because the winner, well, if it's a draw, then Kotepe stay in 5th place. Mariehamn goes straight down, and Kotepe have this playoff against one of the teams from the Ukkonen. And the other 3, I suppose, they're all playing just to see playing for pride to see who can come the highest in the table. But the point to make is that Ilves, through winning the Suomen Cup, also qualified for the Europa Conference League. So they'll be there next year. So I think we've done enough congratulating of Jamie and his Ilves team. So no more of that. Maybe in the next episode or after the international break, we should have a look at we should talk about the Ukkonen splitting, how the playoffs are working there, how the restructuring of the league will take place. That will give us something to get our teeth into and try and understand once we know what teams are going where. But the interesting thing that's had the internet ablaze in the last day or two is the fact that Ashiko Seinäjoki's academy have qualified for the promotion playoffs from Ukkonen, potentially to come up into the Veikkausliiga. And everyone's been asking, how can this happen? And this can't possibly be right. So Ashiko Academy are 4th. They have a playoff against Mikkeli, one-off game against Mikkeli on Saturday, who are in 3rd. The winner of that then plays Gnistan, who are in 2nd. And then the winner of that game plays against either Kotepe or Mariehamn, whoever finishes 2nd bottom in the Veikkausliiga. So I think we're getting a little bit excited to think that Ashiko Academy are definitely going to get promoted. They've got 3 games ahead of them at the moment. And there was some story online today about how technically the academy is affiliated to Ashiko Juniorit, which is a separate organization to Ashiko Seinäjoki. So they could go up. I mean, I think that Raimo Sarjärvi was being very mischievous in his comments, because the club wants to have teams in different levels to provide a pathway and steps up and down. But of course, it would be quite a bit of bragging rights to say, hey, we could have 2 teams. Hey, some of you guys haven't even got 1 team in Ukkonen, and we could have 2. Anyway, that's just me. After the season we've had, I'm just clutching at straws. So let's leave it there. Do you have the top scorers in front of you to go through, or I could do it?
I haven't got it in front of me.
No, that's all right. I'll just run through some of
I
the.
know I know who is top. I can give you that.
Okay, go on, give us that one then.
Is it Bojan Radulovic?
Yeah, it slightly is. Yeah, 18 goals in 23 games, and then it's Peter Michael from VPS with 15 goals in 25 games, and I think has he scored 10 in his last 10 games or something like that? He's
something ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, he has really pushed VPS. I mean, I think VPS do deserve a small round of applause from everyone. Maybe not from you, Mark.
No. I've been quite happy to say they've had an incredible season.
But yeah, he has definitely played a massive part in their winning run that seems to be the longest in Europe or something crazy like that.
Yeah, it's quite well. Did they lose or draw one after Jamie and I recorded that podcast saying how good they'd been?
Wasn't it? Yeah.
They drew 1-1 with Inter, so that I'm sure that doesn't hurt them too much, but it took a bit of a shine off. Oh, excuse me. Third in that scoring tables is Ashley Coffey from Oulu with 12, and then fourth is Jaime Moreno from Asicor with 11, and then there's a few others below with 9, 8, and 7 goals. But yeah, all of this information is in the blog post. So wherever you're watching and listening, just have a look at the link down below, and you'll be able to see all of these. But I think, Ali, unless you've got anything else to say about the Veikkausliiga, we could move on to Finland's Euro 2024 qualifying campaign that continues next weekend.
The only thing I would add is I think everyone that watches Veikkausliiga, whether everyone that's affiliated with it, are probably quite glad that that going into the final day there's stuff riding on several matches. And I think that's at the beginning of the season you don't want it to be a foregone conclusion, particularly at the top. So I think at least from the neutrals' point of view, in 2 weeks' time it's going to be a fun weekend at the very least.
Yeah, I think it will, and that's right. Keeping it going right the way to the end of the season is the point of this split in the table and the point of the playoffs, and it's really seems to be working this year. Okay, Huuhkajat fixtures in October. There's two games coming up. Firstly, on Saturday, 14th of October, Slovenia versus Finland in Ljubljana, kickoff at 7 p.m. finish time. And then that's followed by, on the 17th, Tuesday 17th, Finland versus Kazakhstan at the Olympia Stadion in Helsinki. And that's also 7 p.m. kickoff, which is always nice for those of us that live in Finland and don't really enjoy 9:45 kickoffs in the evening. There's enough football at that time, so it's good that our home games are there. And both these games can be watched on Yle 2 or Yle Areena online. So if you're not in Finland, get your VPNs out, and you'll find it there on Yle. Shall we firstly, I think, talk through the Finland squad, Ali? When I first saw it, I thought this squad looked a bit bigger, and actually, as it turns out, there's one extra player. I think there's 28 named instead of 27, so it was a little bit bigger. Do you want to run through the players that are selected, and then maybe I can talk about who's in and who's out from the last time? We do it section by section, starting with the goalies.
Yeah, so in fact, the goalies are the only one that I haven't got.
Okay. Well, then
basically the goalkeepers, I'll read the rest out.
Yeah, so it's Lukas Radetsky as usual. Viljami Sinisalo, who's been in quite a few of the recent squads, and for this time, Hugo Keto is in, and Jesse Joronen is out. And I think we saw some kind of social media post that there was an injury. And when we saw that, it was kind of unspecified, but he's had an injury and he's being treated. So it was a bit of a surprise to see Keto in there, but not if Joronen is injured. That kind of explains things. And I think there's not too many big surprises there for the goalkeepers.
Yeah, and I think moving on to the defenders, I mean, there hasn't been too much change from the last squad, which was expected. I don't think we were really thinking or even hoping that there would be too many changes. You don't want to upset, what is becoming a settled squad. So we've got Hoskonen, Diego Thomas, Leo Väisänen, who's come back in. Did he score in MLS the other day, or did I totally dream that? Maybe.
No, I think maybe that was something that Keke shared with us, that there had been a goal. Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, don't hold me to that list now. I just might have dreamt it, because I'm very happy he's back in the squad. Let's put it that way. Then Jere Uronen, Miro Tenho, Alho, Palas, Pudusori, Richard Jensen, Robert Ivanov, and Thomas Olila finished the defenders.
And from the previous squad, that means that Ilmari Niskanen is out and Kevin Koasivi Benisan is out as well.
Yeah, so I mean, one Huuhkajat defender, wing back, sort of inverted winger, whatever you want to call it, for another. I have to say, Olila really does deserve this call up from what I've seen over the past couple of months. So yeah, whether he'll get any minutes or not, I'm not sure, but certainly being away with the squad for a couple of weeks will only help him.
Yeah, I think I've certainly talked about this in one of the recent pods, that when he played against Asyikor, he was just a real threat. Like, we couldn't believe how this. Okay, you can say he's a wing back, so that's quite an attacking position, but ostensibly he's a defender. And yet he scored twice. He had one disallowed, and he could have easily had another one or two during that game.
He scored 7 in the Veikkausliiga this season.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's
2 against us in one game.
Yes, I mean, I didn't want to mention that, but you brought it up now, Mark. So yes, 2 against Asyikor in one game.
But yeah, it's good, and then it gives you, once you notice someone like that, then you really start to sort of keep an eye out for them wherever they're playing. So it'd be interesting to see if he gets the nod down the left wing, if we're assuming that we play with that kind of familiar 5-3-2, 3-5-2, whatever it might be. I guess the choice of the wide man depends on how you play against those opponents, and we'll come on to the opponents in a minute. What the midfield?
Yeah, so Lucas Lingman has come in again. I'm really happy that he's come in. He's been a consistent performer, at least for the last 2 seasons for Huuhkajat. I mean, I don't imagine he's going to start at all, because when I watch him, he feels like an alternative option. But when you've got someone like Rasmus Schuler as well, I don't see him getting in ahead of him. I think they're quite similar players. But again, it's going to be a good experience for him to be in the squad.
But when he came into the squad, was it during last year, or within the last 12 months or so, he looks quite good in there. Like, he performed quite well, and then sort of dropped out again. But I think I agree with you. You wouldn't expect him to be there above, certainly, Schüller and Kamara at the moment.
Yeah, and Lingman, he often saves his best performances for the European games, which shows that he's can compete against teams from higher leagues. So I think his inclusion is certainly well deserved. As you said, Glenn Kamara is in there, Rada Schuler's in there, Karinen is in there, Matti Peltola. He's down as a midfielder, but I mean, I can't remember where he was playing in Denmark. Against Denmark, he sort of seemed to be everywhere against Denmark. But he's been rewarded from his good performance against Denmark with coming back into the squad. Then Man Pa, and then finally Robert Taylor, who I think he has to play more minutes.
I would have thought so too.
This really feels like these are the 2 games that are sort of crying out for Robert Taylor. I think also, he's got nothing to play for in MLS anymore. There's a few more days before the first game. I'm just trying to think why he didn't play that much, 5 weeks ago, because that was when he was banging all the goals in, setting his best mate Messi up for all those goals for Inter Miami, and it just sort of felt that he wasn't then given the opportunity to carry on the momentum.
I completely agree. Yeah, I would have wanted to see him there as well. But imagine the confidence that must be just oozing out of him all over the dressing room floor.
Yeah, totally. And so I'm really hoping he's now going to be given that opportunity. As I said, he's got nothing to play for over in the States now. They can't make the playoffs. I think they still have a couple of games, but mathematically it's impossible. So yeah, if he gets on the pitch, I'm hoping he'll carry on that good form from early on in the autumn. Yeah, and then moving on to the forwards. Obviously, Antman has dropped out. He's been replaced by Marcus Forss. Middlesbrough have started to pick up a few wings. They started the season really poorly, but I think off the top of my head they've won the last 4.
Right. Okay.
So hopefully, I mean, I don't watch Middlesbrough every week. And by that, I just don't watch Middlesbrough.
Every week or any week.
Or any week, yeah. But they did beat Sunderland 4-0 the other week. I did see that. Teemu Pukki, fresh from his 9.7 star rating after scoring 4 goals against LA Galaxy. I mean,
I thought that was shockingly low.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what do you have to do even to get a 9.8.
Yeah.
What's the difference? Let alone a 10. But he's not only just from that match, he's really had a decent few weeks. And I remember in the last podcast we were, sort of putting a slight question mark against Pukki and whether he should be starting in some of these. I mean, light pencil market sort of.
I think it was a very light, whatever's lighter than an HB pencil. That's what we were.
Exactly, and he is certainly coming into this squad, full of confidence. As is Poyampalo, who seems to be, either scoring or having some kind of goal contribution for Venezia. Then Daniel Hawkins and Benjamin Chalman as well finish off the strikers.
Yeah, and it seems to me like quite a strong forward line as well. Chalman played really well in the previous couple of games when he was on the pitch. Hawkins had that amazing introduction to international football in June, and then he was in the squad last time. I think got injured for this, during that period and wasn't able to play. Poyampalo seems to be scoring goals regularly for Venezia, and as you say, Pukki scoring. Force scored at the weekend, so hopefully there's a confident forward line there. It's just finding the right combination, and quite like the idea of getting Taylor back into the team and maybe having Hawkins and who do you say, Peltola as well. These players able to come on, Force, younger players able to come on and maybe affect some change later in the game as well.
Where do you think Taylor would play? Let's say that he is going to start. I mean, obviously, I know it depends on formation and who we playing, but where do you think his best position is?
When he was playing regularly a couple of years ago, I think Finland were playing like a 4-3-3, and he was wide on the left, and that is the challenge of where to fit him in from the start, because is he wasted going up and down the left wing back role? But then could he play one of those 3 midfield positions with someone overlapping, and he's got the ability to make those passes that he's been setting up on a plate for Messi to score, and also to break forward and take chances himself. I don't, he's listed as a midfielder. That makes sense, but he's an attacking midfielder. And I remember some games where there was some really skillful play down the left-hand side with Taylor, and back then maybe with Burusoiri as well, and Robin Lod. Robin Lod's not around still at the moment. So I think attacking down the left, possibly it could be from one of those 3 midfield places. But the teams we're coming up against are not to be sniffed at, are they? Firstly is Slovenia away, and then it's Kazakhstan at home. And if we just take a quick mention about the table, At the moment, it's Group H European Euro 2024 qualifiers. First place, Slovenia, 13 points, +7 goal difference. Denmark in second place, 13 points, +7 goal difference, and they've just scored one less. That's the difference. Then third is Finland with 12 points, +7 goal difference, and we've scored again one less. But we have the tightest defence in the group, so we scored 11 and let in 4. And then in fourth place is Kazakhstan with 12 points and a +4 goal difference. Like this, there's a cigarette paper between each of these teams. So which one do you feel? Which one should we feel confident about? I'm not sure. But last week I caught up with Nik Jöst from the Slovenia 1 Twitter account, and I asked Nik to tell us about the recent form for the Slovenia team.
Yeah, recently our team has been doing pretty well. We played a really good game against Northern Ireland, a very different game from our perspective, since it was one of the first times that we played a more attacking football. We didn't focus as much on the defense, which was also seen in the result. More goals, and we conceded more as well, but it worked out in the end. And also, of course, against San Marino, which is just a team that you just have to beat. Before that, the game against Denmark, we also played very well, and I think we can be really happy with the 1-0 draw that we got against them. But I think we can be happy about the previous game against you guys, against Finland, where it didn't really go our way, but I think we can do better at home. I think it's going to be a lot different than it was in Finland.
What do you think will be different about the conditions and about the home advantage?
Well, the first thing is the stadium will be sold out, so it's going to be a much better atmosphere for us. And also we have Oblak in goal, which we didn't in Finland, which it showed. The first goal, of course, I think Oblak saves it, and probably the second one as well. So it's a big difference, and I think that's like a really important part to the team. Having Oblak or not having him is like day and night. It's just completely different.
So your squad has just been announced. Were there any? Looking at the Finland squad, there's a few changes by injury or selection. What about for the Slovenia squad?
Yeah, here it's pretty normal. There aren't many big changes. We don't know about some of the injuries of Bricalo, who got injured, who's one of our main defenders, who got injured in his last game in Norway. So we're hoping that he's okay, because without him, our defense can be very shaky, especially since the other good defender, Drkušić, also got injured. He plays in Russia, I believe. So without them, it could be a problem in defense, but we'll see. Since Bricalo now, I think, should be fine to play. Drkušić probably not, but at least we have him. And the rest is just pretty normal, not many big changes or injuries. So I think we're looking pretty solid for this game.
So you've mentioned a few players' names already. Give our listeners something, maybe 3 players that they should keep an eye out for during this game. Ones that might stop Finland from scoring. You've already mentioned your goalkeeper, but or those that might cause problems and create opportunities for Slovenia.
Yeah, I think the really important players are definitely the centre-back pairing of Bricalo and Viol. If they have a good day, they're very, very difficult to get past. So they're a really good pairing, especially lately. Even though we conceded against Northern Ireland, it wasn't that bad a game just because of the style we played in. It wasn't as focused on the defense. And they were also quite good on the ball and going forward. For example, Bricalo has quite a few goals in the Norwegian league as well. So they're very key to our team. And then, of course, in the attack, you've got the partnership of Šiško and Sporar. Šiško, I think almost everyone is hearing about him now. He plays for Leipzig, and he's just the future, hopefully the future of our national team. He's on track to beat every record there is. Hopefully one day he becomes the national team's top scorer. He's like started out very well on that topic. So I think he's really important. And with Sporar, they're working together really nicely lately. So they're really important as well. And then, of course, in the midfield, right now we've got a pretty interesting pairing of a bit of youth with Gnezda Čirin and Elšnik. Interestingly, Elšnik still plays in the Slovenian league, which is really rare for a player from the Slovenian league to even be in the national team. So he's been constantly in the first 11. So him and Gnezda Čirin have also been a regular pairing as well.
Okay, interesting, and we'll get those names from you and include them in the blog post to go with ours, because it will be interesting to watch the game and see the names that you mentioned and see if you know what you're talking about, Nik.
Yeah,
you have a quite interesting perspective on Slovenian football because often you're out in the middle of the pitch, isn't that right?
Yeah, quite often. I'm out in the middle of the pitch during the national team games because I'm helping, and then in the other games as well because I'm refereeing. So quite a lot of that.
Interesting. Well, tell me about helping with the football association there. What do you do?
I'm a volunteer for our national team, so I basically just get to games early and then just help with preparing the stadium and everything around that. We do like checks for the VAR if it works properly, things like that. And then just when the game starts, I just help with the fans so that everyone knows where to go and stuff like that. So quite a lot of work, and it's just really fun, and you get to go to national team games for free. And
that's a pretty sweet gig, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is. It's really fun.
Well, for this game in Slovenia, Keke from the Finnish Football Show is coming. And so what I'll do, I'll send you his picture and you can keep an eye out for him because, we want to make sure he behaves himself and doesn't let the team down.
Yeah, we'll be keeping an eye on him. We'll put a poster of him somewhere.
Exactly. Good. Glad to hear it. And you said about preparing the VAR. I'm sure maybe the news has travelled about the controversy in the Premier League last weekend. It's a big deal in the UK, and for the team here, are all British making the Finnish Football Show. Yeah. So we're seeing this. How has it been seen outside of the UK, and what's your view on this as a referee?
Well, I think it's pretty horrible that a thing like that can happen in the Premier League, because sometimes you think, how can that happen? And even in Slovenia, we had a similar thing happen in the main match of the Slovenian league between Maribor and Olympia, but it wasn't the mistake of the referee team. It was the mistake of the provider of the lines for the offside.
But the supplier of the lines. That's a great way to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. So they basically just drew the lines completely wrong, and it was a big controversy as well. So a pretty similar case to that as well, and it just can't happen nowadays with all the technology and everything that we have. I think it's horrible that it happens, but I guess VAR is still very early in the stages of development, so you can expect that something like that will still happen, just because the referees, I don't think that everyone is used to it just yet, because it's just so new and it changes all the time. So yeah.
And you're a young guy, and you're starting your kind of refereeing career. So what level are you refereeing at now, and what's your future plan?
So right now I'm refereeing at the level of under 19s in the National League, so first division under 19s. And now hopefully in the future I get to referee the higher divisions in Slovenia as well, which, if there's any luck, this year or next year I'll referee the third division. So that's the goal for now, and then we'll see how it goes.
And maybe people can follow your progress on your Slovenia 1 Twitter account and see if you get out there on the pitch in those lower leagues next year, or maybe in that VAR chair, making sure that the quality from the video cameras is also just as good.
Yeah, hopefully it's better. Hopefully I make it better than in the UK.
Perfect. Thanks a lot for your time, Nik. The final thing I wanted to ask you is, what's your prediction for the score?
Well, I'm gonna predict a 2-1 win for Slovenia, and let's hope it happens as well. We really need this result. We need to get to the Euros, so yeah.
Yeah, I don't think many people bet against their own team, so we will make our predictions for the Finnish football show by the at the end of this show. Nik Jöst, thank you very much for joining us. Right, so Nik is clearly feeling quite confident to predict a 2-1 win for Slovenia. He's talking about the home advantage, the crowd being behind the team, and feeling like Slovenia are playing some strong attacking football at the moment. But we've got the tightest defence in the group. So what do you think? I mean, it's no point really trying to predict a starting lineup necessarily. I think we don't know the Slovenia or the Kazakhstan teams well enough to be able to sort of say tactically we must do this. We know we're probably going to play that 3-5-2, but what are your thoughts about the Slovenia game, first of all?
Yeah, I think, as Nik has said, he's sort of earmarked a few of their key players. If Benjamin Sesko is fit, he's obviously a young up-and-coming striker who is dangerous. But then I felt we coped really well against Denmark, against Rasmus Højlund, Jonas Vind, two young players scoring goals in Bundesliga, Premier League, Champions League. So am I worried about him in particular? Not necessarily, but this now could become a soundbite, couldn't it? Now I've said that out loud.
We'll be tweeting it around on Sunday. Yeah.
And now that I've said it, luckily I'm doing this next to a wooden table, so I'm now touching this wooden table. I think looking at that squad, we also have enough to cause them problems as well. I think we're coming into the game high on confidence. I also think, just looking at the fixtures, that a point could be a good one by the end of November. So yeah, if you're asking me to give you a score prediction, I'm going to sit on the fence and say 1-1.
Okay, I am asking you for a prediction, and I've recorded your prediction. I'm going to be a little bit bolder, and I'm going to say 2-1 to Finland. As I said to Nik, nobody really wants to bet against their own team, do they? So he went 2-1. I'm going 2-1 in the other direction. So let's see how we get on there. I was hoping that we might have someone on to talk to us about Kazakhstan. We had someone reach out after the last podcast featuring Kazakhstan saying that we'd underestimated them. And I said, no, we definitely didn't underestimate them, but we don't know the squad very well. And I think we commented last time that even the squad listings that's put on social media is in the Kazakhstan alphabet, Kazakhstan language, and we can't even read the names of the players to know. Even if we did recognize them, it's difficult to know who they are. So unfortunately, he wasn't able to join us today. So I think, Ali, we can talk briefly about remembering the last game against Kazakhstan and how that might be this time around. When we played over there, it was 1-0 to Finland. It was really hot, I think I remember, and really just a really tough, real battle of a game, physical, not dirty necessarily, but physical. But I think we didn't concede too many chances. We had chances and we didn't concede too many. And we were much more attacking in that game than we were against Denmark, where I think we sat back a bit more and were a bit underwhelming, really, in that Denmark game. But
I think going back to the Kazakhstan game, that I think Finland coped with the conditions better than Kazakhstan. I also think Kazakhstan, they did have a very enthusiastic crowd, but it almost felt like the expectation became too much for the players. They sort of they would get to the final third and then their end product, wasn't the best. I felt Lukas Radetzky had a good game, but he always looked fairly comfortable. I thought Rob Ivanov in particular had another fantastic game. I thought generally the defense was really solid in that game. And yeah, as you said, Mark, we did create a fair amount. So because of that game, it has given me a lot of confidence going into this game on next Tuesday in a week's time. Because, I felt, if we can even put the same performance in, just naturally, I think it would be harder for Kazakhstan because of, having them being away and us being at home. So I think whatever team we put out, I would imagine it would have a slightly more attacking look to it, or at least the tactics might be slightly more attacking because, we're at home, we have to win. Of course, it depends on what happens in Slovenia as well. If we win in Slovenia, maybe there's less pressure to win this home game, or then the mindset comes, well, we've won in Slovenia. Let's, not wait until having to beat San Marino or Northern Ireland or whoever in November. Let's try and get the job done as quickly as possible. So
also it's at home. It's actually, I don't know if it's sold out, but certainly there's a big number of tickets have sold, and maybe by the time the game comes around, it will be close to selling out. So that Olympia Stadion crowd, the Pohjois Kare behind Finland, I think will drive them on to win this game as well. What's your prediction? What are you going for?
I'm going to go 3-1 to Finland.
Yeah, that was going to be my suggestion as well. So I'll stick with that because I'm not sure why I'm quite so negative about how many goals we're going to let in. Bearing in mind we've only let in 4 so far. So, all right, I tell you what, balls out, 3-0.
He's gone for it.
He's gone for it. Yeah, I do fancy that home crowd to really get behind the team, and also it's worth mentioning that the Finland away allocation sold out for the Slovenia game, so there will be a nice. I'm not sure if it was 600 or 800 tickets or whatever, but they went really quickly. Even Keke had a bit of a job to get his ticket, but he will be there representing the show. And remember, Keke, Nik there is working in the stadium, and he's going to be keeping an eye out for you. He doesn't want you grabbing any of those Slovenia players by the leg as you go running onto the pitch. That would be a bit premature, I think.
I think Nick's got his work cut out then, hasn't he?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, Keke be dropping the shoulder and shimmying the other way to get past him. That's right. I think, Ali, we've whipped through that in a pretty good time. Anything else that you want to add about the Finland's Euro qualifiers, or do we say ta-ta for now and meet up in a week or so's time to look back at the 2 games?
Well, I think just the one thing I would say is these 2 games are just absolutely crucial. I think it's so important going into particularly the home game with Kazakhstan, that the confidence is still going from whatever has happened in Slovenia. I feel like the fixture list has, in theory, we want to be going into the final 2 games in November with at least 3 or 4 more points going into those last 2 games. So feeling confident. If anyone's going down to Slovenia, we know Keke is going, but if anyone else is going there, and if anyone else is going to be in the Olympia Stadion next week, just give the boys your support.
Yeah, absolutely. And also just noticing that Denmark played Kazakhstan when Finland are in Slovenia. So that's sort of a bit of a 6-pointer for those 2 teams as well. And it would be quite nice if they could, get a draw, take points off each other, and for us to beat Slovenia and just ease away a little bit at the top. Ever the optimists, ever the optimists. Ali, thanks a lot for that. I think that was a good to look forward to. The players that the Slovenia players that Nik recommended for us, I've listed them here in the blog post, and I'm going to be referring to that when we watch the game at the weekend, because it's good to have a few people to just think, that's the guy, and just gives you a little bit of focus and to listen out for those names. So that's all in the blog post, and we'll come back after the Finland-Kazakhstan game, maybe on the Wednesday, and have a look back at the 2 games for a match report. Right, Ali, thanks for joining us.
Kiitos.
And listener, thank you for joining us until the next episode of the Finnish Football Show. Goodbye. You've been listening to the Finnish Football Show. You can find us online at finishfootballshow.com. Remember to subscribe to the show wherever you're listening or watching. You can follow the Finnish Football Show page and group on Facebook and also on Instagram. See the links in the episode description. You can also connect with the 5 hosts on Twitter, @Explore Finland, @FC Suomi, @Escape to Suomi, @Kekkimuleri, and @Mano99. Links to the Finnish Football Show merch stores are also in the episode description.